Let me start with this. At some point in your career, you're going to walk into a meeting where a decision has already been made, and that decision is going to directly impact your staffing, your resources, or your ability to respond. And the question in that moment is simple. Were you a part of shaping that decision, or are you reacting to it? Because whether we like it or not, public policy is shaping our organizations every single day. Budgets, staffing models, response standards, prevention requirements, those decisions are happening with or without us. So today, what I want to talk about is how we, as fire service leaders, move from reacting to policy to actually influencing it. Because at the end of the day, public policy advocacy isn't a side function of leadership, it is leadership. Today, I want to talk to you about public policy advocacy from the perspective of someone actually sitting in the seat, because this isn't theoretical for us. At the executive level, advocacy isn't optional, it's part of the job. Whether we like it or not, we are constantly operating in that space between operations, politics, and community expectations. What I want to do today is break down how we, as fire service leaders, actually influence policy, how we analyze it, shape it, and sometimes navigate around it so we can ultimately protect our people and our communities more effectively. When we talk about public policy advocacy, this isn't just about lobbying or asking for money. At its core, this is about ensuring our organizations have the resources and authority to do the job safely and effectively. That includes staffing, training, prevention programs, and response capabilities. The reality is that we are often working in a different lane than elected officials. They're operating in a political arena, and we are operating in a risk-based, consequence-driven environment. So part of our role is bridging that gap without losing focus on what actually matters: community risk reduction and firefighter safety. This is where advocacy becomes operational. Every time we're talking about funding, apparatus, replacement, staffing models, or even building codes, we are in the policy space. And here's the key takeaway: influence doesn't happen during a crisis, it's built long before that. We have to be out in front of decision makers consistently, building credibility and relationships. Because when something critical comes up, that trust is what determines whether we are heard or ignored. Before we advocate for anything, we need to understand what's actually happening inside our own systems. Policy analysis isn't just about outcomes, it's about identifying system failures. That includes bad data inputs, broken reporting systems, poor training on documentation, or systems that don't integrate. If your data is flawed, your policy decisions will be flawed. So, as executive leaders, we've got to validate the system before we try to fix the policy. This is where we start turning information into influence. We are looking at response times, call volume trends, deployment models, staffing patterns, because those are the things that tell the real story. When you walk into a legislative conversation with clean, defensible data, it changes the tone immediately. Now it's no longer opinion, it's evidence, and that's what allows us to justify what we are asking for. Policy development is not a solo effort. This is where collaboration matters, working with legislators, local officials, unions, and internal stakeholders. The goal is to align policy with mission. This includes funding mechanisms, grants, and prevention initiatives, not just response. If we do this right, we're building systems that prevent problems, not just reacting to them. One of the biggest misses in the fire service is implementing policy and never evaluating it. A structured approach includes defining outcomes, setting indicators, collecting baseline data, and measuring results after implementation. We also have to look for unintended consequences because sometimes a policy fixes one problem and creates another, and if we're not measuring it, we won't catch it. Let's talk about lobbying because that word makes people uncomfortable. If you're not advocating, someone else is, and they may not have your priorities. Direct lobbying is working with decision makers. Grassroots lobbying is mobilizing your community. The most effective leaders blend both because influence happens at multiple levels at the same time. If you don't understand how government works, you're already behind. You need to know when decisions are made, who makes them, and where influence exists. Professional organizations and associations expand your reach and keep you informed. Those relationships are force multipliers in the advocacy space. This is where leadership shows up. You've got to be prepared, understand district priorities, and tailor your message. You also have to delegate and build a team to represent your organization. And you need to use multiple advocacy methods, meetings, community engagement, and social media. Influence today is not one dimensional. Leadership under pressure is a scenario most of us have or will experience at some point in our career. You've got political pressure, public perception, and internal resistance all at once. What stands out is approach, preparation, stakeholder engagement, and proactive communication. That's what allows leaders to navigate complex environments successfully. Effective leaders must take time for reflection. This is where we ask the hard questions. Are we being ethical, inclusive? Are we data driven? Credibility is everything. If we lose that, it doesn't matter how good the idea was, we won't get the support we need. In the end, if you take nothing else away from this presentation, I hope you take away that advocacy is leadership. This is how we secure resources and influence outcomes. It's not always comfortable, but it is necessary. The leaders who do this well position their organizations for long-term success. Advocacy strengthens departments, collaboration improves outcomes, and data supports decisions. In the end, leadership builds the trust with all the partners in order to effectively impact policy decisions. In conclusion, let me leave you with this. Public policy is going to shape your organization whether you engage in it or not. The difference is whether you're in the room helping drive those decisions or you're dealing with the consequences afterwards. The leaders who are effective in this space do three things well. They bring data, not opinions. They build relationships before they need them. And they stay focused on outcomes, not politics. Because this isn't about winning arguments, it's about protecting your people and your community. If we get this right, advocacy becomes one of the most powerful tools we have as leaders. And if we ignore it, we're leaving critical decisions in the hands of people who may not fully understand what we do. Thank you for your time.